So hello to Timothy, Willem, Kimberly, Karen, Annette, Catherine, Lance, and Anne. I see some new faces and a number of familiar faces. So this is the Baltimore WordPress Meetup. This is done via Zoom so that hopefully everyone can attend. Also, it's far less of a commute for me. So this is informational. Please use the information, products, and services that we show at your own risk. Just because we show a website, plugin, theme, etc., is not an official WordPress endorsement of it. And of course, please keep it family friendly, as many of us are attending from home with all sorts of family members, etc. in the background. We will be doing our best to follow the community standards. That means that if you break these rules, I will boot you from the meeting. No spamming or spammer-like behavior. We have people of all different skill levels and backgrounds, so no judgment for those who are at a different level than where you are at. And generally, don't be a jerk. I'm Jen. I'm a WordPress developer who's been building and managing WordPress sites for clients for over a decade. Over the years, I've built, remodeled, cleaned up, fixed, added functionality to, and done security work on hundreds of WordPress websites. Currently, I manage about 100 of them. And I organize the Baltimore WordPress Meetup. For more information about me and what I do and my company, etc., visit my website, which I will drop into the chat. Some quick admin. We will be using the chat to queue everyone up with their questions. The people who have submitted their questions in advance will go first, and then we will use the chat to queue up further questions. So please make sure that you have found your Zoom chat and opened your Zoom chat. We've been doing this pandemic for 2.5 years now, so hopefully everyone has figured out Zoom chat. Everyone is started off muted, and I'll either unmute or ask you to unmute when it is your turn. That way we don't have everyone talking over each other or 15 dogs barking in the background. I have disabled your video, so your video will remain off because many times people have accidental family members in the background and or distracting video and slow internet connections. No one knows everything, so I'll do my best, but I can't guarantee an answer to every question that's out there. Now it is time for the questions. If you are here, please type in the chat here, or I'll move on to the next question. So those who submitted in advance are Zeem, Sophie, Ralph, Terry, Ted, and Karen. So we have a Karen, a Ted. Do we have a Zeem, Sophie, Ralph, or Terry? We have a Terry. All right. We will get started. So the first question comes in from Terry, and this is a CSS question. She has a block of text that repeats throughout the website and wants to put a class on it so that you can adjust fonts and sizes, etc. You have loaded Adobe fonts onto your website, but you're having difficulty getting the font to actually activate. All right, Terry, do you want to unmute and tell us a little bit more?
Yes, the problem is I don't know how it's actually called in, the font name when it's in CSS. So I've looked all over.
So when you got these fonts from Adobe, it would be Adobe Typekit, if I remember right?
Yes.
And they gave you some they should have given you a script file to include, and that includes a CSS file.
It's installed. I can load them, but I can't load specific ones without knowing, I can load Vera Sans, and I can change some of the weights. But for instance, I can't seem to, I don't know how to, I'm guessing that I'm using Fira-Sans or Fira space Sans. It doesn't seem to matter between those two, but to identify the book version, that I'm not, it's not working. And I don't know how to call that. If it's, I've tried different weights.
So it depends on how it was installed. Do you have the actual install files that Adobe gave you, what was loaded into the website? I'd
It's
need to
loaded
see
into the
that.
head. Yeah, it's loaded into the head file. I can, it's not much there. I can call that up here.
What's the URL? Can you put it in the chat?
It's a staging site, but you can still access that, right? With the URL.
As long as it's public.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is here. Put it into the chat.
All right. So, and you said it is added in the head?
Head code, yeah. With the customizer, through the customizer. It's
okay. So
so
I
that's
see.
my own CSS attempts in the customizer CSS.
Okay. So do you, here we go. Use typekit. Is this what you loaded? This use typekit?
Yeah, I was going to eliminate the ones I didn't want after. Oh, I see they are there. They're listed. It's
yeah. So this is all comments. This is all comments here.
Okay.
So this is all a comment block, but what you can do is you can scroll down. So you said you were looking for
the book. Yeah, the book version.
So yeah, you didn't load it. It's not loaded here. So
it's not loaded. Okay.
Fira Sans, and I don't see anything for book.
Okay, and I didn't want compressed either. So something's gone wrong in the type kit there. I'll have to go back and redo that. But you're
anyway,
saying, but anyway, yeah.
What you can do is you can read some of this. So you can see this at font face.
Yeah.
And this is where the font family is declared.
Yeah.
So if you were using this Proxima Nova, this is exactly how it's declared. So this is exactly how you would want to call it.
And the font weight is the one that determines the fonts.
So each weight has to be loaded in.
Yeah,
so
I see it several. Yeah. I see.
So what'll happen is it'll normally add in. So here we're going to load font weight normal with font style italic. Here is font style normal and font weight normal. Here you can see font weight 300. So basically what you want to look in is look in this file for the appropriate fonts. So here we have
they are named, differently in Adobe. They're not named with their font weights. So this would be a matter of my just guessing, trying
so you come here to this because this type kit's what you included. Right. So this style sheet is being included on your website. So it's going to include a version of Fira Sans that is font style normal, font weight 500.
Yeah.
So that is definitely available to you. Here you can see you've got font style italic with font weight 500. So again, this is available to you. So anything you see here in this file is going to be what's available to you.
Right, and that's how I would call it in the CSS class.
That's exactly how you would call it in your CSS.
Yeah.
So you would literally copy and paste this, copy and paste that.
Is the font stretch that they all look normal, right? That's just the default.
It is very rare that you'll see a font stretch that is not normal. Just like it's very rare that you'll see font display. Generally speaking, very, very few people ever use font stretch or font display.
Okay.
You'll just need the font family and the font style, font weight.
And you just went into looking at the
I just went into your view source and looked for typekit.
and looked
And that
clicked on the
gave me the
typekit.
CSS file. And then
Oh,
I
okay.
opened up the CSS file and now I can see what's available.
Well, that just answers my question. Thank you.
So
Yeah,
there you
because
go.
it's Fira-Sans, or
Yep.
Proxima-Soft or
And there's
whatever.
also a Fira Sans -2, which it's
I know.
possible that that is your book.
No, for some reason that's a very
Something
light
else?
font, and I don't want it. Yeah, so I have to go back and redo the typekit. Yeah. So, but that also explains some things. So thank you.
Yep. So anyway, that's how you find your fonts from Typekit.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Ted. In my experience, is it possible to define enterprise size WordPress site? Not really. The number of users, can be a leading factor. You're a partner with AWS. Okay, so kind of as some high level stuff. The number of total users on your site is less relevant. What is normally relevant is the number of active users on your site. So that means at any given moment, how many people are concurrently being active on your website. So for example, I have a client with an e-commerce site and they have a very large mailing list and they will send out blasts with sale notifications or whatnot to literally 100,000 email addresses. Now, fortunately, they do portion this out so that send happens over a couple hours. But the point is that they are going to have active on their website a whole bunch of users all at once. And these are users who aren't just receiving a static page that could be heavily cached and delivered to thousands of people all at once. This is people actually clicking add to cart and people interacting with the server. So because of that, that's a very high load on the server at that moment, because a whole bunch of people are clicking all these add to cart links and going through checkout processes, and that uses up PHP workers on the server. Whereas they have another website that they also send out e-blasts, but that website never causes issues because it is a brochure website. Now that brochure website literally has a couple thousand pages on it, but because the website doesn't change, people aren't clicking add to cart. They aren't asking the server to do a customized action just for them. They're just doing page views. We can have that all cached up through Cloudflare, and literally 1,000 people are viewing the website and none of them are even touching our server because of the caching layers. So in terms of an enterprise type WordPress site, it's typically the number of active users who are interacting with the server and asking the server to perform a function. So that would be add to cart. If it had a membership site and there were message boards or other things. So it's basically non-cacheable interactions with the server that is really what puts load on your server. And that's what typically creates a quote unquote enterprise situation. So Ted, does that help at all?
Yes, yes. You mentioned Cloudflare.
Yes, Cloudflare's your best friend.
Okay, you've had good experience as a management, using
Oh,
that
yes.
management. Okay. All right, that was helpful. Thank you.
Yep. All right, our next person is Karen. Karen asks, if I reconfigure my drop-down menus, does that require me to set up a redirect? What's the best plugin for redirects? So the basic answer is, if you remove a page that has been indexed by Google or that has backlinks on Google, then what you want to do is you want to redirect those. If you have just rearranged your menu, but you haven't removed any URLs, then you don't need to set up a redirect. As far as my favorite plugin for redirects, it is WordPress.org plugins redirection. So this is the plugin that I personally like very much for redirects. As you can see, it has 2 million active installations, has very good ratings, and it includes, they're fully compatible through PHP 8.1, which is always good to see. And they do have import and export of the redirects, which is particularly helpful when you have a lot of them and you need to import or export through CSV files. So hopefully, Karen, that answered your question.
Yes, Jen, thank you so much.
Yep. All right, now that we have gone through people who have pre-submitted their sites, we are going to go to the Zoom chat where we will pick up additional questions. So if you have additional questions, you can go ahead and type them into the Zoom chat and we will get started on them there. So the first question from the chat is from Anne. And can I explain what a backlink is? Yes. So let's say we're on the website wordpress.org. So what happens is there are hundreds of other websites that link to wordpress.org. Those are called backlinks. So for example, most major hosting companies will have a link to wordpress.org. That is a backlink for wordpress.org. So Anne, does that answer your question?
Hi there.
Hi.
So are they a good thing, bad thing, or it just depends?
It depends. So backlinks from reputable sources are very good for your SEO. They give indications to search engines that, hey, people like this content. People are linking to this content. Therefore, this content is interesting. This content is worthwhile. For example, if you get a blog post that gets linked, on Reddit or something, that could send a ton of traffic to your website. So basically those links can be useful, but not all backlinks are good because not all websites have a good reputation. So for example, spam sites might have a link to your website. Those aren't really good because those aren't really a positive source to start from. And it's always important not to buy backlinks. Like someone says, hey, for 20 bucks, I'll put a link to your website. Don't do that. It's not going to go well. Maybe it'll go well for a short period of time, but in the end, it's not going to go well. It's kind of like copying someone's homework. You might get away with it for a little while, but in the end, it's going to come back to bite you.
Gotcha.
Does this relate to follow and no follow? So yes, when you create a link from one website to another, you can put properties on it. So here we are. So here you can see that we are on this link, which says search regex. And you can see that there is a rel equal no follow on it. So that is basically saying, yes, I have linked to this website, search.regex.com, but I'm not saying that they are favorable or unfavorable. I'm actually telling search engines, please ignore this link. So even though I've linked to it and I'd like humans to follow it, I'm telling search engines, I don't actually wish to pass any love onto this website or to have you really consider this much of a backlink. versus a follow means, yes, search engines, I absolutely want you to follow this link and put some of my authority on it. I really do endorse this link. So what you'll see a lot of people say is always make sure that your own links within your own website are follow links, unless you have a page that you want to remain hidden from search engines. But like if you are linking to your contact page, you want that to be a follow link. If you're linking to your about page, you want to make sure that's a follow link. If there's no rel equals at all, if that's just not present in this anchor tag, then it means follow. So you have to explicitly say no follow for it to be a no follow link. But typically this would be to an outside site that you say, hey, this might be of interest, but I don't necessarily endorse them. Does that help, Anne?
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Catherine asks if there's a way to know if your site has backlinks on other websites. And the answer is yes. If you use Google Search Console, it will tell you about your backlinks. And there are some other paid services on the internet which are available, which will tell you more in-depth information about your SEO and your backlinks. I don't use any of them, so I can't really give you any recommendations on that. Were there any other questions? I don't see any others in the chat. Yes, Catherine has another question. And I see Terry put in a comment that you'd like a meetup on Google Search Console. Yeah, that would be nice, but Google Search Console is a big messy thing that I don't really get into. So feel free to look for and recruit people who are experts on Google Search Console, and then contact me once you found them so that we can get them scheduled for a meetup. Catherine, do you still have your question? You can go ahead and unmute if it's easier. All right, Catherine added her question to the chat. Do you know how to add a no follow on a link in text in the block editor? Yes, there's a checkbox, I think.
Sorry, it's Catherine here. I was, now that we're talking about follow, no follow, I just encountered that today, and so I might not be asking you the right question, but it didn't give me the option to say.
Here we are.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you? It was not in a text link. It was in a button. Like I was using
okay,
the
was it
button
a
block.
button, the default button link, or one of a add-on?
I think it was. See now, okay. You know what? It's probably not a good question because I'm not really prepared with this question. I was just working on it earlier. I think it was the default button block, but I could be wrong.
I'm not sure if it's a setting available on the default block.
Then that's probably true, because I think that's where what I was encountering was I didn't see it, and I was expecting to be able to see it.
Yes. Yeah, they have PHP snippets and some other
so not
stuff.
not super important. Okay.
So yes, it looks like here we are. Button no follow. Add a button block, add your button text, add your URL.
It's in the side. Okay.
In the sidebar, scroll down to find your link settings, and then you'll be able to find a box that says link rel, and you can populate that. And you should be able to populate in your no follow.
Thank you. That's helpful. I wasn't looking over there. I was looking in the editor and didn't see it.
Yes, there for pretty much all the blocks, there is a bunch of additional settings that is in that right sidebar.
Great.
So that's
thank you.
always a very good place you're like, but maybe it does something. Look in the right sidebar.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So since I don't see any more questions, Has anyone gotten any use out of some of the full site editing features in WordPress 6? Well, if you have, please go ahead and type in the chat. I personally looked at full site editing and some of the videos that WordPress officially had put out and said, nope, that's still beta. I'm not using that for any production websites, and moved on. Was there anyone else who wanted to put a question into the chat? I will ask a quick question to everyone here. Please type your answer in the chat. So what version of PHP are you currently using on your website? Do you even know? And are you ready for PHP 7.4 to reach end of life at the end of November? Okay, we have a couple people who aren't ready, a couple people who are in the process of moving their sites to PHP 8. Yes, 8.1 is still a mess and a lot of things don't support it. Annette doesn't know, but she'll be glad to have me help. Yeah, Lance has moved on to PHP 8 and is going to be upgrading from PHP 7.4 to PHP 8, probably before the end of November. Catherine is still concerned about plugins not being ready for PHP 8. I have found that older plugins, if either haven't received recent updates or perhaps they were a purchased pro plugin and your license expired, they haven't been updated and whatnot, then they may have issues, possibly significant issues with PHP 8. If you're running plugins that have been updated within the last year, I haven't seen any issues on plugins updated within the last year. I have definitely seen issues on plugins that, you know, haven't been updated since 2020 or earlier. So what is happening is PHP 7.4 is reaching total end of life. So PHP is a software that runs on your server, and that is what WordPress uses. So here you can see that PHP 7.4 no longer has active development going on, but it does have security support until November 28th of this year. So that expires in just over 2 months. So what is being encouraged is everyone to move before November 28th to PHP 8. And PHP 8 is still under active development, but it will have security support for another year through the end of November of 23. PHP 8.1 has definitely had issues with several plugins, a few themes. For the most part, I wouldn't encourage people to move to 8.1, but I would definitely encourage people to get moving to 8. If you're not sure, I always encourage using a staging website to test your PHP 8. If you have a simple brochure site, it's usually fine. You can just update your PHP version, and if it all crashes, you can just switch it back. It takes about 5 minutes, depending on your hosting company and how easy that is. All right. Kimberly is a beginner. Well, welcome. Welcome to the WordPress ecosystem. There's a whole bunch of information out here. Terry is on 7.4 and is going to be planning on her update soon. Anne asks if themes need to make updates to be compatible with PHP 8. And the answer is it depends. If the theme was originally written in a way that it didn't use anything that was deprecated in 7.4, then it will probably be just fine with PHP 8. I have seen some code that was written 10 years ago that is still running just fine in PHP 8. I have also seen code that was written last year that doesn't work on PHP 8. So the answer is, does your theme need updates? Maybe. It depends on how it is coded, and if it is coded to be kind of using more best practices, or if it was not. Catherine says that her hosts only support 7.4. That is frequently the hallmark of a lower quality host, if they are only supporting versions that are about to go obsolete. All right. Were there any more questions? Otherwise, I will move on. So, what if you want assistance outside of meetup times? Well, we have a meetup page with information on it. And I just dropped the link to that in the chat. Remember that the chat does go away when the meeting ends. So if you want to grab that link and just open it up in your web browser so that you will have it, that's always a good plan. Then I don't currently have anything scheduled for October, but I might think of something. Otherwise, we do have a meetup scheduled for November 10th, which is our every other month Ask Me Anything. And you can always get the latest at the meetup group, which is meetup.com, Baltimore WordPress group.
Could I ask a question? I can't type it fast enough.
Sure.
Having a website that's going to be based in the Netherlands, I have a lot of rules to follow. And one thing I'm unclear on how to handle is with the cookies, there seems to be an indication that you can't by default say, well, this site uses cookies to run the site. If you want to use the site by default, you've accepted them. I have to have something where people can say, I don't want to use cookies, but I still want to use the site. I mean, I don't know how to turn off for individuals, or what I'm supposed to do about that.
So what you need is an integrated cookie solution that has its own integration with WordPress to disable literally the cookie from being loaded, from being added to the person's browser. So give me a second. Just opening something in another window, so just bear with me for a moment.
Well, and while you're looking, I know I couldn't use the Google fonts anymore because they're
correct.
I'm on
they are not allowed.
hosting plan.
Google Analytics and Google Fonts are both blocked. Yes.
Yeah. In which one? Google Fonts and is it
Google Analytics.
And Google Analytics is blocked. Oh, I didn't realize.
Google Analytics is prohibited in the EU.
And I'm hoping Adobe fonts don't have the same issue as.
I do not know regarding Adobe fonts.
Yeah, I didn't see anything, but. So Google Analytics is out. Okay. Well, that's another question about where I keep on. I mean, this is all new to me, and I never knew where to start keeping up on how to do this. You know, how to keep up on what I'm.
So one of the ways to keep up on some of the legal matters is this company called Termageddon. So they have
you had
a mailing list that I'm on.
You had a meetup with them, didn't you? I think.
Yes. So one of the things that they have added since then is a cookie consent. So here you can see privacy settings, and it's showing you which cookies are enabled, about how you can continue without accepting. And what this does, this actually adds JavaScript to your site to actually prevent cookies from being loaded. And if you are interested, I do have a discount code for Termageddon.
It's
Because, you
always
know.
worth a try. Yeah, sure.
Let me just grab it because I gotta, there we go. So this is the discount link. So that link will save you 20% on your first bill from them. So, you know, that's nice. But yes, I have used Termageddon. I use them with my own site, with my clients. And the owner of Termageddon is Donata, and I will mess up if I attempt to pronounce her last name. But she is one of the top privacy attorneys in the country, including being the chair of the American Bar Association's e-privacy committee. So she pretty much lives and breathes online privacy. So I do like them. I use them. And yes, we've had Donata and her husband Hans on before, and they know a giant boatload about online privacy. Anne was asking if there is an alternative to Google Analytics, and the answer is there are several. What is it called? Here we go. So the ones I have actually heard of that people are using would be this Matimo. I attempted to use it. It went very poorly. I stopped using it. Let me see. Fathom is a company. I remember correctly, they are based in Canada, which is a good thing for privacy concerns, as most of the privacy concerns are regarding US law and how US law affects people in other countries. So Fathom, I have heard a number of good things about. Their actual website is kind of awful to navigate, but their backend is supposed to be good. And Plausible is the other one that I have heard good things about. And if I remember right, they are also based out of Canada. They're actually Plausible and Fathom are extremely similar to each other, but they do have slightly different pricing. In some situations, one would be more expensive or less expensive than the other, but they're pretty similar. So those are the ones that I have heard of and heard a bit about. So hopefully that helps. Were there any other questions? And of course, for those of us here in the US and whatnot, Google Analytics will be shutting down their universal analytics. That's those UA tags that people have on their websites next July. So a lot of people are installing the new GA4 tags onto their sites. And that is to start getting the information for Google Analytics 4, which will be supported after next July. But that way you'll have some historical data. And yes, you can have GA4 and Universal Analytics running side by side. All right, I think that wraps it up. Thank you everyone for joining us. And of course, stay tuned to the Meetup mailing list and for any additional news, as I will send out blast if I schedule a October meetup. Otherwise, I hope to see you all in November.